Hi guys, welcome. It's me, Chrissy. Welcome to this painting today. I'm working on a A3 size canvas, which is roughly 16 by 11.5. I've grey toned it and I'm just going over a nice light pinky purple to just give that nice evening dusky effect. I'm just working with a stiff bristle brush and I'm just putting some clouds in. Now they're not detailed clouds, they're just nice and loose for now. And I'm filling in at the moment now with some golden yellow and some cadmium yellow just to put in on the background there. Now I'm coming in with some Prussian blue, just going over my clouds just to give them another layer. So I've let the first layer dry before I do this stage. I'm working with a round stiff bristle brush. I'm just using circular motions. And I've just lined it slightly there. We're just adding a bit of white to that Prussian blue. I'm giving my clouds another layer. Like I said, I've let it dry, then I've come back. Here I've just added a little bit of brown to the yellow. And this is a bit of cad lemon light I'm just putting in because I want the sun to be coming from the left side of the image. So I'm lighting it up on the left side. This is just a dark value I'm putting in for the horizon line. It's just some Prussian blue, a bit of black. I'm using the same colour again in the water as I've used in the clouds, which is Prussian blue and a tiny bit of titanium white. I'm just using a flat brush. I'm using dark values and lighter values just to give that water feel of a bit of depth. But we will be layering it obviously and putting some water movement on the water. I've let that dry and I'm back in the sky with the stiff flat bristle brush. On the right hand side I'm keeping it more muted with a more of an orangey browny tone, and on the left I'm lightening it up with my yellows to give that scene of a nice evening look. Now I'm soft blending over some of my clouds with just a little bit of purple, lavender colour. And the light blue I'm just adding just to define some of the cloud shapes. Like I said, I've kept it pretty loose, the background. I've got my ship on. I'm just using a cad red deep to block in all my sails. So if you've only got cad red medium, you could use that and just add a tiny little bit of black just to darken the values. Because like I said, we're working layers. So you just want your base coat fairly dark so you can add your mid-tones and then finally your highlights. I hope you enjoyed this video today. If you do, please give it a thumbs up, and you can also leave me a comment as well. I'll always get back to you. And also my paintings are for sale. You can visit my website. The link for that will be underneath this video. And I also have a Facebook group, which is a really nice group to be in. We're all friendly and share as creative artworks, not just paintings, but we do a lot of other art in there as well. So the link for that is also in the description box if you'd like to join the Facebook group, which everybody's welcome. So I'm still blocking in. I'm watching where my shadows are. So I'm just adding a tiny bit of black to my reds just to give that darker value. And I'm doing the reflections the same colour also, because we'll be building them up like the sails in layers also in the water. I'm just using a flat synthetic brush at the moment. And I'm using a darker tone just to block in my boat because it was a bit too light that I had before. So I'm just using the Prussian blue, a bit more neat without any white added to it. And a bit darker for the base, so I just added a bit of black to the bottom bit of the boat. Now here I've made just like a Payne's grey. I'm just adding that in to give some more values into my water. You can make Payne's grey if you haven't got it, with a bit of Prussian blue, tiny bit of black and some white. I just want to break them water lines up in the reflections of the sails. And of course, let each layer dry before you come back to add another layer. Then you don't get all your colours muddied up because we're using reds and blues and yellows. So we want to make sure everything's dry. So this is acrylics, so it doesn't take that long to dry. So you can see I'm breaking them sails reflections just to give it a more realistic feel. Now here I'm using a muted yellow just to put in as the base coat for the reflections that's coming from the light source, which is on the left. I haven't gone too bright yet, so I usually just keep it a bit muted and then obviously let it dry and build up another lighter colour. Still with a nice little flat brush, but any brush you're comfortable with will be fine. I want to give the water a sense of movement, so I'm keeping my brush strokes quite loose and free to give that illusion of the water's moving or the boat's moving along. I'll just put a little bit on that corner because I would think it'd naturally catch there, but it's definitely going to be brighter on the left. I'm going in some darker values again because I lost a few, so I'm just adding them back in. And I'm just using a Perillo red light just to go over the dark red that I put in on the base coat. Now that is dry, the base coat is dry. And I'm just loosely putting this in, as you can see, and just soft blending it slightly because I know I need to come back and do more layers, so I will refine all the blending as I go. And these are quite fun subjects to paint, doing sails and reflections in the water. I quite find it, very interesting to paint. It gets your concentration juices going, so to speak. So I want that sense of the sun's going to be shining through the sails. So I am looking for that, and I will build that up as you will see further on in the video. I'm just putting the posts and the masts in. I'm just putting some slight reflections at the back of the sails, like the masts of the posts are shining through. I'm just using a chiselled flat brush for this process. An angle brush will be fine also. I'm going back in with my darker shade, which is just red and a tiny bit of black. So I need more shadows in, so it will contrast later on when we add as final highlights. Like I said before, make sure each layer is dry, and then you get nice, crisp, clean coverage on your next layer. Now I'm working in on the reflections again on the water, because what I put on the sails I want to add into the water reflections of the sails. So I started off with the dark red, Then I've added the medium red and so forth. I'm just going with that Payne's grey again to just give a bit more depth to that water, especially right in the foreground. I'm back in with my muted yellow again. I haven't gone really bright. I've just muted it down with a bit of brown. Now this is a bit of a glaze because I'm just trying to bring it all together a little bit, but I still want them nice rough lines in the water. That is Prussian blue and a bit of white. I'm just filling in the boat area. And the dark bits is just the Prussian blue and black. Because it is evening, so I don't want it too bright on the boat either. Add in a few ripples. I've just gone lighter in sections there. Just added a bit more white to my mix. And left some of the edges a bit darker on the actual boat. These are like little cabins on top of the boat. I'm just blocking them in. A bit of rope, a bit of detail coming down there, which I thought were cute, so I thought I'll add that. I'm just using a liner brush here, just to do the little details on the cabins and the rope area. A small number 1 or a 0 round brush would be okay too. Now I'm coming back into the red again on the sails. Now what I've done here, I've added a bit of Pereira red, some cadmium red medium and a tiny bit of orange, just to get that glow going of like the sun shining through the sails. I am going over my darker values because I do know they're there, because they're there, I've put them in, and I will come back to those. So don't be hesitant to paint over your values because you can always come back. I'm soft blending more at the top. I'm flicking my brush up there and just soft blending it out at the top slightly. Like I said, we've to come back and do another layer, so I will blend out any harshness that I need to blend out, and any harder lines I will leave in, obviously. I'm just using a small filbert here, just to get the dark shadows of the sails in. And I'm just straightening up any lines that I needed to correct. It's great fun doing nautical scenes. I quite enjoy doing them. I think they're really nice. You know, especially boats and ships and things like that. I think they're really nice subject to paint. So same on the sails, I'm adding again back into the reflections in the water with the same mixture. Darkening the outsides with that blue again, Prussian blue. A tiny bit of purple. I am soft blending some of it out and leaving some harsher edges just to mute it down a little bit. Lightening my sky. Now that's dry, so make sure everything's dry before you come back in. And obviously use a clean brush for your brighter areas. So here I'm adding a bit of cadmium lemon and a tiny bit of red and some cadmium orange, just to try and get that glow coming through on the sails. To give it that nice warm feel about it. And the blue, I've changed my blue now to some phthalo blue, which I'm using on the boat. I've just added a tiny little bit of white. Checking my reflections again. I'm just glazing over these sails with a muted red again, just to get them values back in. And I can go back in with my mixture that I had before, which was the lemon yellow, cadmium orange and some red. Just lightening the boat with a bit of white. Well, it's not white, it's an off-white. Some blue in there, so it's not pure white. It's like a light blue. And I'm checking my water reflections again for my values. So I want it a bit darker at the foreground. So there's that mixture I was talking about earlier. Now I'm not putting it everywhere, I'm just putting it where I think the sun will be catching through the sails. And I'm soft blending most of it out now. There's hardly any harsh lines to be visible, so I'm concentrating now on getting to the finished result I'm looking for. Still putting another glaze of shadow because I think it needed it in some areas, just to show up the nice pop of light we've put in the sails, because we need that contrast. So just sit back and have a look and you decide what you need to add or take away, obviously, with your values. I'm coming back with that lighter colour again. Same in the reflections. Now I'm putting the ropes in. That holds, obviously, all the sails together. I'm just using my liner brush and some black mixed with a tiny bit of ultramarine blue. I enjoyed doing this bit. Thought it was quite therapeutic. Just dusted a little pink colour there because I just thought it added a bit more interest just on the corner of them sails. Now I'm coming back in with a light mixture, which is the red, light, a bit of orange. I hope you've enjoyed this, guys, so please give us a thumbs up. Leave us a comment if you need to. I'll get back to you and I'll see you soon. Thanks. Bye.